Hi everyone, my name is Braelyn Wakefield and I am a global public health student here at Dominican University, and for my capstone project, I chose the topic vaccine hesitancy among adults during COVID-19. I chose this topic because I was interested to understand why so many individuals were reluctant to get the COVID-19 vaccine despite CDC's recommendation to get the vaccine. So today I will be talking about objective and background, methods, results, and discussion/conclusion. So what is vaccine hesitancy? It refers to the refusal or delay in acceptance of vaccines despite availability of vaccine resources. So why should we study vaccine hesitancy? With vaccinations being at the top of the list of preventing and stopping the spread of disease, it becomes necessary to understand why only 65% of Americans are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, while there are over 230 million cumulative cases and 4.7 million deaths. The COVID-19 vaccination decision-making process is influenced by distinct and unique factors that have not necessarily been driving forces in past vaccination decisions. So it's important to understand where this hesitancy may be coming from. Previous research states that there's considerable variability within vaccine acceptance. A cross-sectional online population-based survey found that adverse effects and then scary information on the internet were causing hesitations. Another systematic assessment study found that the key predictors of vaccine hesitancy were sex, education, employment, income, and political affiliation. So the objective of this study is to better understand the motivations, beliefs, and perceptions of individuals who have decided to remain unvaccinated against COVID-19. While not every individual is the same, we believe there are specific groups or themes worth addressing and analyzing through this mixed methods approach study, in order to design specific interventions for public health to intervene in. The study population consisted of 11 adults. The gender was primarily females, while there was only 2 males in the study. The average age was 40 years old, and the race was primarily white individuals. The education level, everyone had attended some college, while 72.7% had a college degree. Marital status, 63.6% were married and 63.6% were also employed. The non-employment rate was about 27.3%. The study design consisted of a mixed method approach where interviews were consisting of 30 to 40 minutes. The qualitative portion of the interview was a semi-structured question, and those consisted of open and closed-ended questions. And then the quantitative was the second half of the interview, and that consisted of 5 structured survey questions using a 7-point Likert scale. And then demographic questions were also assessed. I have attached the qualitative questions below. A few that stood out to me are, why have you decided to remain unvaccinated from COVID-19? And what are the social implications to this decision? So the measures of the quantitative portion of the interview, we assessed reactance by intentions, anger, perceived threat, and attitudes towards the vaccine. Measures were adapted from the Dillard and Chin 2005 study, and then all interview questions and survey questions were created alongside a psychologist professor at Dominican University to ensure validity. So the results of the qualitative analysis showed that the overall arching theme was that individuals did not want to be identified as an anti-vaxxer, but that they rather opposed the COVID-19 vaccine specifically. They thought that if they were an anti-vaxxer, they received more backlash and hate, so they did not want to be associated with that. Additionally, we have 5 main themes that were identified as determinants of vaccine hesitancy. In this slide, I have attached all the 5 themes along with quotes from participants. The first theme was participants' risk-benefit self-assessment. The majority of participants in the study viewed the risk of receiving the vaccine much greater than the benefit of receiving the vaccine. The reasons stated suggested that individuals were of great fear of the short-term and long-term adverse effects. Women in the study had a great fear of infertility. They feared that if they got the vaccine, that they would not have the ability to have kids in the future. Additionally, many people shared stories from family and friends about extreme side effects that they had encountered and that what they believed was from the vaccine. This induced a lot of fear and anxiety from the participants. Additionally, the second theme that arose was participants' assessment of immunity. So throughout the interviews, a term known as natural immunity became a commonality among participants. This term refers to being immune to COVID-19 naturally, in which participants already had COVID-19 and overcame the disease. They believed they had the antibodies, therefore they did not need to receive the vaccine, and they believed that was essentially the same thing. This led to the topic of herd immunity, which they believe that we can achieve herd immunity by either having the vaccine or having the antibodies, but they believe that there was essentially the same thing. Additionally, the third theme that arose from the study was participants emphasized more time is needed to make a decision. Within the interviews, a common theme was that vaccine was created too quickly and that they weren't given enough time to research and perform clinical trials on the effectiveness and the validity of the vaccine. Therefore, participants weren't sure that the vaccine was 100% effective, and they would have liked more time to make an educated and logical decision. Additionally, a lot of participants said they were considering getting the vaccine if they were given more time. The fourth theme that arose from this study was responses fueled by political propaganda. Individuals stated their concerns about the vaccine becoming a political decision and information being spilled by politicians. The government and CDC's involvement to expedite the vaccine process seemed different than usual pandemics or vaccinations. And this made participants feel like it was more about the financial aspect than the well-being of the population's health. Additionally, participants felt that the government's involvement to mandate this decision stripped their freedom away in a way, and they would have liked to just be able to make this decision for themselves and have that ability. The last theme that arose was participants valued alternative remedies or prevention tools. The majority of participants valued just wearing masks, social distancing, and self-isolation, and they believed that these were sufficient ways to prevent the spread of the disease and to protect themselves and other people. Additionally, other people valued a natural approach, which meant just they were concerned about the ingredients injected in the vaccine and that they rather just take a natural approach, indicating vitamins, washing hands, and such. Additionally, a few other participants argued that they would rather take the medicines that the CDC mentioned in the beginning of the pandemic, which were ivermectin and hydrochloroquine, rather than receiving the vaccine. Additionally, we had a few outliers or other reasons in the study. First being pre-existing health conditions. These were blood clotting, Lyme's disease, and autoimmune disease. And then secondly, we had for religious reasons. However, it was interesting that the religious reason was not the only reason that the participant would not get the vaccine, but it added to the decision making. So for the quantitative analysis, we used a 7-point Likert scale. And as we can see, for the general attitudes towards the vaccine, it was a 2.05, indicating that the general attitudes were seen as bad, foolish, unfavorable, negative, and useless. However, when we looked at anger toward the vaccine, on a 1 through 7 Likert scale, 7 being high and 1 being low, it was a mean of 5. Therefore, it was slightly above, so they were viewing the vaccine slightly angry, annoyed, aggravated, and irritated. And then when we looked at the threat to freedom to choose, it was very high at a 6.54, high being 7. So participants really felt threatened, manipulated, and pressured to make a decision to get the vaccine. And then the intention rate was very low, it was 1.85. So when people were asked, are you willing to get it? Are you considering to get it? And if you intend to get it, their intention rate was very low. And then moving on to the discussion, participants valued more time to make a logical and educated decision. When asked if they would get it in the future, a lot of participants said that they actually would consider getting it in the future, but they wanted to see research and clinical trials done, and they wanted to see that it was an effective piece of the pandemic. Additionally, the participants' perceptions behind not receiving the COVID-19 were heavily influenced by their occupation and family values. So a lot of the participants in this study had jobs that were not affecting them to get the vaccine. Therefore, we believe if they did have jobs that were mandating them to get the vaccine, their perceptions and thoughts may have changed or been altered. And then lastly, the government's involvement was a bit unnecessary and misinformative. It kind of caused some mistrust with the public. And additionally, individuals became very hesitant about that the government was mandating them to receive a vaccine, and they believed it was done at an accelerated speed. So it just became unusual and created confusion with the public. Building on this theme, understanding whether an individual's identified political party plays a role in their vaccination decision could play an effective and important role in this study. So a few limitations. Our study consisted of mostly white females, and it only had 11 individuals in the study. So with that being said, a more diverse and larger sample population could be necessary to have more accurate results. Additionally, the CDC guidelines for fully vaccinated have changed since November 2021, when I first started this study. So a follow-up on participants is necessary to see if any perceptions have changed. And then strengths of this study is it was a mixed methods approach. So it used qualitative and quantitative data. And then also it understood important themes from participants that weren't really stated in prior studies. So for future public health initiatives, it's important to change risk perception. And then additionally, implementing interventions targeting reasons for hesitancy, addressing concerns about safety and side effects, and underscoring the importance of vaccinations for all populations and ethnic groups are necessary to improve vaccination acceptance at a much faster rate. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions? And here are my resources.